Okay, we're on the bottom 451, and the top Kuf Yud. Okay, now the Rebbe is basing this on the pasuk that says, Zereh Tzedakah, one who sows or plants tzedakah gets the reward of truth. And it says, what is the level of truth? It's the level of Yaakov Avinu. Titin emes li Yaakov, Yaakov Avinu is the level of emes. And Hashem gives emes to Yaakov. Titin emes li Yaakov. So the Rebbe asked, what Yaakov is not emes without it? Hashem has to give him emes. The attribute of Yaakov is emes. So he starts explaining the Avodah for a Jew is the Avodah of Yaakov is the Avodah of Rachmanis. Having pity, mercy on yourself. And he starts explaining, this is what we're in the middle of now. You have to have pity, Rachmanis, on your own neshama that fell from a super, super high level, and that's what we're in the middle of now, the origin of the neshama. And the neshama comes down all the way down into the lowest places of exile. The neshama in the body, the neshama. They tell a story about Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, one of his followers, was once drowned in a river. The Baal Shem Tov was upset. Baal Shem Tov said that the river should dry up. The river should dry up. So it became a big commotion in heaven. The Malach in charge of the river said, what is this? What is he doing? Drying me up? I mean, who gives him the right to do that? Yet, we know the Gemara says, Tzaddik Geyser, V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim. A Tzaddik decreasing and Hashem listens. There was a dilemma. So they ruled, they paskined, that the river will remain dried up because the Baal Shem Tov said it. But if any of the descendants of the Baal Shem Tov ever go on that river, the river will immediately fill up and they'll drown, whoever is there. The river will come back to its old power. So the Baal Shem Tov left over before he died, in his will, one of the things he left, that nobody should go over that dry piece of land. Even though it was a shortcut. Nobody knew the whole story would happen. Baal Shem Tov said nobody's allowed to go over that piece of land because Baal Shem Tov would fill up right away with water. So Baal Shem Tov left over in his will, none of his kids or grandkids should ever go on that way. One time one of the Baal Shem Tov's grandkids was in the wagon. A guy was driving the wagon, and the Goyish drivers knew that you can't go over that area. He fell asleep. Baal Shem Tov's grandson fell asleep. So the driver saw he was sleeping. He says, I'm going to go the shortcut over the river. He went over that dry land. The second the horse touched it, the water started gushing from all over the place. The grandson woke up and he saw that this is mamish sakana. All of a sudden he saw a little light, a fire from the distance, and he grabbed onto something and he followed the fire and he was saved. The wagon driver drowned and he was saved. That night the Baal Shem Tov came to him and said, I want you to know that fire that saved your life was my neshama coming back to earth to save you. And the Baal Shem Tov said, this is the way the Chassidish story goes, the Baal Shem Tov said, if I would have known how torturous it is for the neshama to come back into the world, even in a flame, which is very spiritual, it's not a body, I would have never done, not even to save you. So for the neshama b'chlal to be in a body is a terrible, terrible descent, yerida. How much more so when we're in Golus, that the descent is even more. It's a terrible thing. So he says like this.
When we dream about Nativ.
What?
When we dream about somebody passed away, is like is neshama come to us?
When? In a dream? I don't know. They don't come into the world. It's a vision. They're not coming physically into the world. They're not coming into your head. It's a vision in your head. You picture now your house, yeah? Does that mean the house is in your head? No. It's a vision of the house in the head. It's not the actual neshama. Okay, so he says like this. Okay, we're going to start on page Kufyot 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines from the top of the page. Now, the Rebbe starts explaining like this. Everything that comes down into the world that's created is from the word speech of Hashem. And therefore, the difference between one thing and the next is basically this combination of the letters that that Hashem created the world with. So he says, therefore, every difference that exists in all the different things in the world exists because there's a different combination of Hashem making this a table, and this a chair, and this and this, and this and that, right? Even then, by the way, every table is different. This table has a different power from Hashem than this table, even though they're exactly the same table. But this table is this table. You know, all tables have similarity. It's all with the word shulchan, which is the word not in the openly in the Ten Commandments, in the Asar Maimoros, in creation, but it's through allusion and the combinations of letters. So he says like this: when it comes to Hashem's essence, not Hashem's speech. Remember last week we discussed that the speech of a person is minimal compared to the person himself. It's just one word, it's nothing compared even to your power of speech. It says, Ani Havai Eloi Shanisi, that by Hashem it says, I am Hashem, that doesn't change. Bein Bechin is Shinu Mini. There's no difference between Ishtaushus Mireim HaMailos, from the highest of levels, Ad Lamata Mata, all the way up there and down here, there's absolutely no difference. In our world, higher is higher, lower is lower. And you have a million levels in between. By Hashem, there's no changes. Higher, lower, it's all the same. Ruchnius, Gashmius, it's all the same. Like we learned last week. Hashem is above both. Therefore, Ruchnius and Gashmius is all the same. Hashem is above infinite and above finite, above Bli Gvul and Gvul. So therefore, by Hashem, there's no difference between Bli Gvul and Gvul. And therefore, even though Hashem created this universe, which is massive and vast, the pasuk says, "Ani Havai Eloi Shanisi." Hashem didn't change, whether there is a world or there isn't a world. Because think logically, before Hashem created the world, He didn't have to deal with the world, right? He didn't have to deal with the world. Now that there's a world, He has to make everything exist. So l'chayra, now He's connected to the world, right? And before He created the world, He didn't create the world. So Chassidus explains, that level of godliness that changes is not the essence of Hashem. That's Mamala Kol Almin. The level of God that permeates the world, each level accordingly, that changes between Atzilus is more godliness, Bria is less godliness, Yetzirah is less godliness, and so on. But in the essence of Hashem, there's no difference between Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah, Lifnei Atzimtzum, Acharatzim. There's absolutely no difference by Hashem between the highest levels and the lowest levels. There's absolutely no difference. So therefore, what's the Alter Rebbe bringing out of here? We can understand where the neshama comes from. The neshama comes from a level of Hashem that the highest world and the lowest world are both equal. So the neshama is coming from a super, super great place. Like he says, the same way Hashem is found in the higher worlds, that's exactly the way Hashem is down here in the world. There's no difference by Hashem. And there's no difference by Hashem between past, present, and future. By us, past is gone, future is not here yet. Right? What do we say? Ovad Adayin, no. Osid Adayin, V'ovad Ayin, no. Ovad Ayin, Osid Adayin, Ve'oiv Kerefayin, Daga Minayin, right, the famous one, Daga Minayin. And he says, therefore there's no difference even with Hashem in time, meaning, just like the only thing that existed before the world was created is the only thing that exists was Hashem Yochad Miyuchad, Kachu Ata, the same exact way he is now, after creation. There is absolutely no change. You know, in davening, the early parts of davening before Haidu, we say, Atahu Kaidem Shenivra Ha'olam, Atahu Mi Shenivra Ha'olam. Right? Simply what it means, you existed before the world, you existed now that there is a world. Atahu Kaidem Shenivra, you existed before the world, now you existed after the world. Chassidus says, no, that's not what it means. What it means is, the same way God, you existed before the world was created, meaning the only thing that existed was you. The same you is there now that there is a world. It's the same thing. Just like before Hashem created the world, the only thing that existed is Hashem. Now that there is a world, the only thing that exists is Hashem. And the Rishabah comes from that level. And where does it go down to? All the way down, to the lowest of low. So he says, why? How could that be? It is because everything compared to Hashem is absolutely nothing. And like he said, what we just mentioned before, one letter of speech compared to the power of speech, which is infinite, bligvul, one word, one letter, compared to the power of speech has no bearing whatsoever. It doesn't change it, it doesn't make it weaker, it doesn't do anything to it. Or afilu mimachshavtei, or even more so from the thought, legabi klolos muhusa nefesh, hasichlis, compared to the nefesh hasich v'atzmusa al derech moshul, which is only said l'shachech hazayin. It's only it's an expression shachech, meaning we should be able to understand it. Huh? The shachech hazayin means it's an expression in Chazal that the ears should be able to. Huh? I don't know. I'm telling you, not in the grammar. A second, let me see what he says in the English. Oh, to appease the ear. Literally, that's what it means, to appease the ear. And he says, in reality, it's even more. Nothing exists. As far only Hashem exists. Like the Alter Rebbe right there explained in the Kutamon Chelik Beis of Shayich V'Amuna Perek Tes, that the Alter Rebbe explains over there, the only thing that exists in the world is Hashem. So therefore, why should Hashem change?
Why Hashem what?
Why does Hashem have to? He doesn't change. Hani Hashem lo shenisi. Past, present, and future doesn't affect him. Existence of the world doesn't affect him because there's nothing to do with it. He's completely above it. The only thing that exists in the world as far as Hashem is concerned is Hashem himself. Nothing else. And he says, this is what we say in davening right after Baruch Hu. The king is exalted, me'oz from all the way back. Me'oz pirush, what does it mean? Me'oz kedem abriya. Just like me'oz, just like before creation. Hayahu levadihu, only thing that existed is Hashem. Kach at humerumim, so the same thing, the only thing that exists now. And that meaning like this. Hamelach hamreimam levadim me'oz, just like me'oz, before the world was created, the only thing that existed was you. That's the way you are now that there is a world. Umisnasi mimei selim. And then that thing continues. Hashem is exalted and removed from the days of the world. Pirish, what does it mean? Shuram v'nisa l'maylam maylam chinas man, which is called Yemei Selim. Okay, what did that pasuk say? It was tefillah. Hamelach hamreimam levada me'oz. Literally, it means the king was exalted alone from aforetime, and then we say he's removed beyond the days of the world. Okay. Then he said, Misnase mimeis elam. He's above the days of the world. Now, what does this mean? It's basically time and place. When we say God is the only thing that existed before and He's the only thing that exists now, that's in place. That the world is only Hashem. Then we say, add, Amisnasi mimeis elam, He's even above days, meaning He's above time. Hashem is not limited in time and place. Time and place were created by Hashem, and it's a limited creation. Therefore, time is limited, and place is limited. It's limited place, limited time. Hashem is above both. You know, we learned many times in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Igeret Hakodesh, with the holiest room, the Holy of Holies, the Igeret Hakodesh was 20 amas wide. 20 amas.
How many feet is that?
40, I'm making it 30 feet. Okay? The room was 30 feet. The ark, the Aron, that stood in the middle of the room, the dimensions of the Aron was 2.5 cubits. Got it? So if you put the Aron in the middle of the room, and now you measure it from here to here, and from here to here, you're not going to have 10 and 10. Correct? You're going to have minus 2.5 and minus 2.5. Okay, you're going to have minus 1.25. Altogether 2.5. Yet the Gemara says like this. When they measured the room, it was 20 amas. One end of the Aron to the room was 10. The other end of the ark to the room was 10. The ark took up 2.5, which means 10 plus 2.5 equals 20. In the Igeret Hakodesh, that's what it was. It wasn't because they didn't know how to measure. The room was cockeyed. The room was 20 amas wide. The Gemara says the expression, Mokim ha'arein eina min hamida. It wasn't part of the measurements. Now, that doesn't mean that the Aron had no measurements. The Aron had a measurement of 2 amasayim v'chetzi rochbei, right? It was 2.5 amas wide. The room was 20. One end to the room was 10, one end of the room was 10, and the Aron took up 2.5.
So it was above nature.
It's above, right. In fact, the Mefarshim ask, when the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Asar Maimoris, Asar Nisim Nasal of Sin Beis HaMikdash. 10 miracles happened in the Beis HaMikdash. Yeah? And the Mishnah enumerates, you know, the pregnant woman that never got this, all the various different miracles. So the commentaries ask, why doesn't it mention the biggest miracle of all, that the Aron didn't take up any place? So the simple answer to the question is, nobody saw it. Only the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur went in. So they take 10 miracles. They had 10 miracles with what the people saw. Okay. But the Chassidus, it goes deeper. The definition of a miracle is something above nature. This is nature and above nature simultaneously. You know what that means? It's not stam a miracle that above time they came into time. Or the Yam normally flows and Yam Suf, Kriyas Yam Suf, it stopped. That's a miracle breaking nature. This is not breaking nature. This is nature above nature. There's a pasuk in Tehillim right before the Baruch Nafshis, and those few words actually give out the whole, so to speak, the essence of Hashem.
You brought it up to Mr. today?
1 second. No. Yeah. Here. In Kapitel Kuv Beis, in Tehillim, all the way close to the end. It says, Va'atahu, you are, you, God, Ushneisecha lo yitamu. Your years never end. That is a contradiction of terms. You can never reach infinite by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can't. You can't reach infinite through finite. You can't reach beli gvul through gvul. And here we're saying, Ba'atahu, what is the essence of Hashem? Shneisecha means your years, time, lo yitamu, never end. How can years never end? They have to end. It's limited. The answer is, this is what the essence of Hashem. But what is Va'atahu, David HaMelech says? That Shneisecha lo yitamu, that your infinite and finite coexist simultaneously. So therefore, in fact, the Rebbe asks a very interesting question. In Mayim Rabin Tavshin Yud Zayin, which was one of the first Maimorim the Rebbe edited, the Rebbe brings down an expression that in this world, this finite world, there's infinite creations. The Rebbe quotes that expression in Chassidus. And the Rebbe in a footnote writes, it's an expression brought down in Chassidus, and it implies that that's what the Metzias is. There's infinite amount of creations in the limited world. So the Rebbe writes over there at Tzarchi and Gadol, you need really to understand, because only Makom Ha'aron min Amida. If you say there's infinite creations in a limited world, there can't be. Only the Aron was limitless at the same time. But how can you say there's an amount of limited, infinite creation in a limited world? If it's a creation, it has to take up space. So how can you have infinite creations in a finite world? And the Rebbe over there, for many years, remained with Tzarchi and Gadol, meaning you have to really look into it. Later on, the Rebbe answered the question, didn't explain it really, but the Rebbe answered, we find a similar thing. The Gemara in Chagiga asks, there's a contradiction of two psukim. One pasuk says, Elef alafim v'ribi v'nevaves ikadmuni, meaning 1,000, 10,000 times 10,000 angels serve me. Basically, you say 1,000 is 1,000,000, 10,000 times whatever that number is, right? Angels serve me. So the Gemara asks, but another pasuk says, Ein Gdud of Ein Mispar. There's no number for the Gdud, for the legions, meaning the angels of Hashem. So the Gemara asks the question, how do you reconcile these two things? One thing says that there's unlimited angels. Another pasuk says, no, there's 1,000, 10,000 times 10,000. So the Gemara answers this, that it says 10,000, 1,000, 10,000, that's the amount of one group of angels. There's infinite groups of angels. So the Rebbe said the same thing over here, and exactly, I'm sure people understand, I don't. But the Rebbe writes that that's the concept of infinite creation in a finite world is similar to the concept what the Gemara says, there's a finite amount of angels in one group, but there's infinite amount of groups. Whatever, but I'm just saying it's a very interesting point. The Rebbe gives, but here the Rebbe is saying clearly, Hashem is above world, above time, above place. What do you mean? How could Hashem be above time and world? The existence of all time. Melech only comes to the level of Malchus. Meaning, Hashem created the world with speech. The speech is a level of Malchus. Like the Gemara, the pasuk says, "Devar melech shiltein." B'devar melech shiltein, a king rules with speech. Now, what is speech? We just got through saying, you speak, it's nothing compared to the essence, right? Therefore, the whole concept of creation comes from the lowest of the spheres, the lowest attribute of Hashem, which is Malchus. What do we say? Malchus Cha, Malchus Kol Elamed. What's the source of time and place? Malchus. Therefore, we in davening, even though people think it's a pasuk, there is no such pasuk. It's a compilation of 3 psukim. In Yehichvei we say Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimlech Le'Levad. There's no such pasuk, by the way. One place it says Hashem Melech, one place says Hashem Malach, and one place says Hashem Yimlech Le'Levad in the Az Yashir. So Chassidus explains, you never find in any of the other attributes of Hashem, any of the other spheres, Hashem was Chachma, is Chachma, will be Chachma. Was Chesed, is Chesed, will be Chesed. Doesn't say that anywhere. The only level that we have, Melech, Molach, and Yimlech, Avar, Haive, Ve'asid, past, present, and future, is only by the attribute of Melech, Malchus. Why? It's very simple. Above Malchus is above time and place. When did the world exist? When Hashem spoke. That's the level of Malchus. Hashem created the world with speech. That's what the level that created the world. What created time and place? The level of Malchus. The level above Malchus, Hashem himself, is infinitely greater than time and place. So now it's later, but Alter Rebbe is going to continue Mitzvah, we'll see next week. Therefore, you can imagine where the neshama comes from and how far down the neshama goes. So then you have to awaken Rachmanis on ourselves. And nothing's working. Okay.
Yes,